Growers Show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Home Growers Championship podcast. This is episode 3. Thank you for popping back in. We have Colibri Cultivator with us today, and we're ready to get into it and talk to the 2024 rosin winner. Kind of a big feat, so we'll jump right in. I am Steve. I am from the Dank Tank. I am a new event coordinator here with THGC, and looking forward to pushing this event as far as it can go and seeing what the future brings.
Hell yeah. You guys know me. I'm Justin. And as he said, that 2024 rosin champ, that is no small feat. If you remember back to episode 1, X-rated, all that he could really talk about was how fucking good all of the hash entries were. So shout out on that. Toss it over to the man on the TV.
What's going on, everybody? For those you don't know me, John. Yep. That's about it. That's all I got.
He's a sexy piece of machinery. He has been known to put down some barbecue and walk around zombified for a little bit.
Yeah, give me too much. I'm done.
Yep. Well, at least you're up. It's better to be a zombie than it would be to just be knocked the fuck out, right? So, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
Videos lag way off.
Oh, really? Huh. Keep going. So, yeah, let's just jump right in. Colibri, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on. I'm Dave, Colibri, Seabird, whatever you guys want to call me. Yeah, that's me. I'm a grower, man. I don't know what else to say about that.
Oh yeah, how long you been growing?
So mid 90s, man.
Okay.
I want to say right around the time I think I started my first plant, I think 94, 95, something like that. I grew up in a small town, started taking them out in the farmer's field next door. And from there we went.
Oh yeah, what'd you start growing when you were like 5? I met you, bro. You can't be.
Yeah, no, man, like 14. I get that a lot, though. People think I'm a little younger than I am. So
Yeah, hey, compliments for that.
thank you. I appreciate that.
So how did you get into it? Did somebody show you, or were you and your buddies just like, let's go set up in that field over there?
So it's kind of weird, man. Temple balls got me. If we want to get started on that, one of my buddies gave me a temple ball. He's like, "Yo, check this out. You want to smoke this?" So we were hot knifing temple balls or hash back in the day. I was just fascinated by it. So when all my buddies were in the corner store, trying to grab penthouses and Playboys off that top shelf, there was this magazine, man, and it just had this beautiful flower on it. And y'all know it was High Times, right? So I was grabbing for those, and off we went,
Hell yeah, for you newbies to the cannabis space that think that a hot knife is just a dab tool, it's actually a way that we used to smoke hash. You heat up your knives, freaking get your hash, slap them together with some kind of bottle over it or something, right? Some kind of collection device, and suck
Absolutely.
it down.
Screwing together plumber's parts, whatever you could do, man.
Yeah.
It was fascinating because he broke this thing out. He pulled it out of his lint-filled pocket, and it's this little brown ball. But when you cracked it open, it was just that beautiful green, and the smell that came out of there was just fascinating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What else?
The flavor too, man. Like there's something about smoking hash out of a pipe, like taking a little ball, putting it into a pipe is just not delicious, just to call it what it is, right? But like if you take that hash and you smoke it the way it's supposed to be, I guess, I don't know, the way that we've always grown up doing it, the flavor that comes out of there is insane, because it's I mean, that was the OG dabs, right? At the end of the
yeah,
day,
for sure.
and that was like about as close to full melt as you were gonna get. You could just incinerate a tiny little piece of hash and be lit.
I forgot about it. I actually just got some cheetah piss hash like last week. I was smoking, did another dab of it, did another one, and I was like, holy shit. Like I'm fucking high. And I forgot what I smoked. I was like, oh my God, it's this. I was like, you know what? This isn't even gonna do anything to me. I was pretty dumb. I'm not gonna lie. It got me.
Yeah, no doubt. Still one of my go-tos. I still keep some finger rolls around and have at it from time to time.
Lasts a long time too.
Yeah, for sure.
You got a dedicated set of knives.
Me?
Jinx. Shoot. Everybody who said me, yeah, probably.
Few pair.
I actually got glass ones too. I tried like switched off from like, the actual knives. Tried the glass. It's like a little bowl and a stopper thing.
Yo, part of me wonders, like, granted, we could attribute some of this to ignorance and just being a broke kid, but like, how much of that high can I attribute to the coating on the knives I used to use? Because I definitely wasn't rocking straight silver knives. You know what I mean? I got the little purple fringe around the outside.
Oh yeah, they're
It started off with a plastic fork and knife.
Oh my God, it's melting. It's working.
Cool. Let's get back to growing though. I mean, hash is fucking awesome, and that's part of the reason we're here. But since your thing is growing, let's chat about that a little bit. How big is, if you want to disclose, how big is the operation you run? Are you working with like a 4x4? Do you run a room? How's that look?
Yeah, so it's relatively small and pretty damn efficient. I have about 150 square feet total of grow. I basically built a lab inside of a lung room, for lack of a better term. I use lab because I run RDWC. So I'm running 3 systems inside of 3 4x4s right now, but I'm actually in the process of building that room out. So I've been off and on growing for quite a while. This has kind of been my latest thing to fart around with. So this phase of it was pretty much experimental, get the systems figured out. It's quite a jump. My last grow was ebb and flow.
Have you always been
So-
in the hydroponic world, or did you used to? I mean,
No.
outside of growing outside, but did you used to be a soil guy?
Yeah, for sure. Outside, living soil. Funny story, that farmer's field, I rolled up in there. And back then when I was, 14, 15, 16, you're reading High Times. We didn't have access to information like you do now. You had a couple old heads, a lot of really old school bro science. But that farmer rolled up on his tractor when I was out there trying to harvest and took my weed. So
Oh shit, took it, huh?
Oh,
yeah, it was small. I grew up in a small town, so we all knew each other. But he had a shotgun on his tractor, and I didn't have shit, man. So I ended up going to the other side of the track, so to speak, or the other side of the main drag, running through the neighborhood there. And I grabbed this idea out of High Times. So basically, what I started doing was climbing trees and topping them and growing in pots up in top of trees. Which
No
was
fucking way.
swear to God.
Wow.
What, dude?
That's the most gangster thing I
Dude,
think I've
that
ever heard.
is.
So
also
when
the
you're
best
young-
light
Like I got
efficiency
like
I've ever heard of.
goosebumps, bro. Like the drainage is amazing, the light's amazing.
What's
Wow.
not are the bugs, man. The bugs were a real issue.
Well, like, did you climb up there to check on them all the time, like to know the bugs were an issue, or like
Oh yeah, I was. I didn't have shit to do. I was a
Dude,
kid in high
what?
school.
that's sick?
Take your teenage idea, fast forward that like 20, 30 years with skills and some money, build a tree house. Like, what the hell?
Well,
That is brilliant.
That's
back in the
fucking
day,
sick.
man, you had to worry about helicopters, cops, like all that shit, man. That's still like deeply
Wow.
ingrained in me. You know what I mean? Being stealth as fuck. So
Wow.
it solved a few issues, right? People didn't find them as easily because they weren't at eye level. You know, they had great access to light. You just had to really watch the rain, for your watering schedule. So it rain, you're like, okay, I got a couple of days. But then dead of summer, that ass, you're pumping gallons of water up a tree to water your plant. So, but I was in soil for a bit. Then I moved into hydro, and like I said, on and off. This last turn's been about, I don't know, 2.5 years, something like that. So I haven't been steady through it, but I'm back and enjoying it. So it's good.
I feel like that's a marketable thing right there. Topping trees to grow trees.
Right? Like what the heck,
For
dude?
real, like
Like
that just blows my mind that people did
his
that.
buddies are out there reading Playboys, and he's over here changing the world, like growing on top of trees.
You should be treetop cultivator.
Holy
That's right.
Holy,
Trilibi or something.
Yeah,
Whoa,
it's
that's
funny
awesome.
now, but back then, man, that was my way. That's how I
Small
got
town
around
New
it.
York or somewhere else? Or did I miss
Yeah,
that?
west side of Rochester.
If I missed that, sorry. I might have had a
Oh
stroke a
no,
minute
you're
ago.
good. I didn't say so. So my grow now is deep water. I'm down. I'm knocking the whole thing down and rebuilding into one full sealed room. So um, I'm excited about that. It's gonna, you know, it's kind of limiting in the fact that I can't play around with a bunch of different cultivars at once.
Mm.
But then again, it's kind of relieving too because once you get to cloning and I'm basically right now I run like 12 plants. So
how many
um,
cultivars at once? How many different ones?
uh, yeah, right now I'm running one. I was three all the time, and then just popping beans and selecting. And so 12 plants, you're taking a minimum of like 8 cuts from each one. So do the math. You got a lot of
Hmm.
lot of clones in your nursery until your plants mature and you can take the ones that you want. So it's been busy couple of years, man.
Clones are freaking overwhelming, right? They
Yeah, they
can,
can.
The idea is awesome.
what the craziest thing is that whole time you're flowering, they actually grow. They become significantly bigger than clones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Uh,
Uh,
Love the
my
idea of having
sister.
a room full of clones. I hate the idea of having to go out and take care of them.
Yeah, yeah, me too. That's the next step. I'm gonna be setting up some TC. So with that, eliminating all the space from the tents, I gained some extra room. So I'm gonna dedicate one of those tents to just the mini TC lab, and Rob at hashtag Hydro gave me a massive hookup on the Athena kit.
Nice.
I got my buddy who's in my college just helping me spec out a big flow hood.
I
You
was
build
just
them
gonna say it
yourself?
requires some equipment to do that properly. And
Yeah,
for those of you who don't know, TC is tissue culture. Um, it's essentially like micro cloning.
It's
Hmm.
fucking sterile of sterile.
yeah.
So like, how big of a hood are you looking to build?
I want to fill that bitch up.
The whole.
Um, I want a nice steady flow pushing out of
How,
that tent.
how big's
Um,
the tent?
I'm gonna use a 4x4 just so I can get in there and get my elbows out to the sides. We're gonna set that on a table in a chair. It's gonna be the forever alone booth.
Yep. Yeah, I've
Stare
got
at the
a
wall.
3x3 I run with a little like 2x2 flow hood right now. I don't do TC or nothing. But yeah, no, I was just asking because you got to give yourself enough room to work inside of it.
Yeah.
That's the only issue.
How's that 2x2 working for you? You like
It
it?
works good, yeah. I mean, without going to a real industrial like 8, 10, 12-inch fan, it was kind of hard pushing it with a 6. And for a 2x2, I didn't want to do anything more than a 6-inch fan. So I had to find like the right CFMs. I honestly, I think like a Vivo Sun, like off, like an orange, like Vivo Sun orange. Did they make orange? I thought they were green. It had enough CFM to give me that laminar flow to keep
Okay.
everything moving. I can send you the link for it. If you're gonna go, I mean, what 4x4 tent? You'll probably do like a 3x3 hood.
Yeah, I think at max.
Yeah. Yeah, you might have to go with like an 8-inch.
I mean, you could probably get something that's a little bit shorter too. Leaving yourself only a foot to work kind of sucks, yeah.
No, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, a foot's terrible. Like I find myself sometimes I'm out of the tent, but I mean, as long as you got that flow, it's good. You know, the flow, and make sure you get like the sleeves and stuff. But I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to mitigate any problems. But it'd be nice to if you could make like a 1x1 fucking hood that would do everything you need, or have a bigger tent. But not everybody can fit a bigger tent.
Yeah, space is my biggest limiting factor right now, but that's okay. Just keep everything at arm's reach, man. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Oh,
Quality over quantity.
yeah.
So what made you decide to go DWC?
Oh man, I just like nerding out on stuff. I I built my system. I designed it. Like, well, I use PA Hydros, the basic parts of their kit, and then I changed a lot of it. Got some current culture parts. I just, I was kind of fascinated with aeroponics, and then I got to
Yeah.
thinking about it. I'm like, this is the way. I'm gonna try this first. It's a little more cost effective. I don't have to worry about, sprayers getting clogged with nutrients and all that shit. So, I did a little diligence ahead of time, and then so my system's a little bit different. I run living soil above my water culture. Um,
Nice.
if that's so basically what I do is I transplant my clones into nursery bags with living soil, basically nematodes, just some of your basic microbial life.
Then you drop that nursery bag into Hydrogen or something?
I just drop it right into the net pot, man, and
Okay.
it, yeah, it's been great. It gives that little buffer for those clones to really set up a nice root system and have a little microbiology there,
Yeah.
your trichophylla and all that stuff that it really likes. And then I figure so they go in probably 6 days before those roots are tickling water. And then from there, it's just fucking off to the races, man. So
Do you do you sorry, I'm like blanking out for the word I'm looking for here. Are you running recirculating or are they individual pots? I could imagine there's got to be some leaching from the net pot into the water, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. So yeah, I am running a recirculating system. It's basically off of PA's spec for a fall ponics. So it circulates through the bottom back to the resi, and then it also pumps. I have an external pump that pumps to the top of each site inside of the tent. It's just dropping water from above as well, so it's creating a little more oxygen, and also a kind of a good recirculating flow. So that I do get a little bit of fuzz in there. Not a big deal. My I run sterile with peroxide, so I try to
Okay.
keep it as natural as possible. That seems to do the trick, except you're spiking your resi every 4 days with peroxide to just kind of keep the bacterial life and stuff down under in check.
Bro, I think your next nerd level is to switch the DWC into like an aquaponic DWC and
I,
like
you know,
really get microbial with it.
who does that? Who is it that does that? I listened to a couple of his podcasts.
Yeah, it's Steve. What the hell
Yeah,
is his name?
Hagel.
Aquaponic Steve is what he goes by typically. What is that freaking podcast called though?
Steve
Growing with
Hagel.
Fishes.
AKA Uncle Steve.
so there's a
Oh,
guy. Was he in Hawaii or some shit like that? I don't think he's actually doing aquaponics like that anymore,
He
but I like
bounces
the idea.
all over the place and does consulting now, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So I've toyed around with a bunch of different variables with it, running biofilters and all kinds of weird shit. And this just seems to be what works, keeping it simple enough. You know what I mean?
simple enough.
So so are you feeding with synthetic nutrients then?
Yeah, so I feed salts. I use Floraflex. This
Hey.
this is where it gets a little less simple. Is I'll run Floraflex probably into mid flower, maybe just a little bit later, and then I switch everything underneath into microbe tea basically, and just let her rip the rest of the way. So I kind of move from synthetic back to organic when I'm finishing flower, and just let them fucking microbes. Like instead of flushing, I let the microbes
Yeah, it's
eat
like
up.
a pseudo flush. I like that, where you could sort of transition and let the plant finish how it wants to. That's beautiful.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, the product clearly shows. Having won the 2024 with hash, everybody knows you gotta have a quality product going in to get a quality product coming out.
And a staple like pineapple upside down cake. Come on now. Our grandmamas was making it. Let's be real, man. You came in with a staple.
Dude, my grandma never made that. I got
Your grandma
screwed.
didn't make it? Slap your
Oh,
grandma. Slap your mama.
I was smashing the wrong granny's shit.
Oh my god.
Oh man, did you know that was what you were gonna have processed? Is the pineapple upside down cake, or was it just what you had?
No, I was actually hunting a pack. It's funny that for whatever reason, I had some umami in there, and I had two of those pineapple cakes. And it was, I was running blueberry cupcake, which I really love, and that's a fucking checks a lot
Hmm.
of boxes for me.
All my boxes. That was fire.
And I honestly, I thought if anything was going to even get a mention, it would have been that. I was surprised, but I took one plant. So full disclosure, I don't wash my own hash. Old Man Flower does it for me. He's been great. I just work with him on my harvest, so I kind of pay attention to when I'm harvesting, and then I do the cure end of it. So I gave him just one, just enough to wash hash, and I go, I don't know if it's worth it to you, but this one smelled really good. And I think if we wash it, so basically, I only got enough back from that one plant basically to run the contest, and whatever
Oh
was
shit!
left, gave it back. I gave it to him after we won. So I
You
don't
didn't even you
necessarily.
didn't even get a little drop of it.
I got a little
Oh
taste of
yeah,
it.
good,
I
good.
mean, he tested
Good. I
it
was gonna
before
say,
he
you
put it
better,
in, bro.
goddamn,
Let's be
dude.
honest.
Yeah, goddamn.
No,
Hopefully
no,
more than one.
yeah, but not. It didn't return a ton. So, and I don't really like. I'm not necessarily known for. I don't know myself to pick based on yield. It's really all about the terps. So whatever, I look for plants that can handle, because deep water culture, man, it's like I don't even know. It's hard to describe, but it's like s- just sending it. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of stress, I feel like, because your whole environment, like your plants have full access to nutrients at all times, right? I've got some I took some Spider Farmer 730s and chopped the frames so that they would fit inside the tent, so I could push light real hard. And I also, built my room around some gas appliances so that my ppm for my CO2 it's like ambient's like
Naturally higher. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's freaking smart.
So what you're saying is you're also a MacGyver.
maybe, but not really. No, I fucking
Yeah.
ran out of bubble gum. But so uh yeah, so I stress, like when I was running that run, man, I anytime I run something for the first time, I push it really hard to see who can handle what. You know what I mean? So and then I'll select kind of based on that and based on terpenes, not so much yield. So I was surprised, not to get way too down the rabbit hole.
There's multiple lessons to be taken from that sentence you just said right there. One, you push it really hard the first time, right? If you don't, how do you know what's too much and what's ideal, right? Like every grower should be doing this with anything they're running. They should push it as hard as possible. The other lesson, it really is all about the terps. Like the terps drive the experience. THC is great and all, but at the end of the day, THC is THC is THC. And I don't know if anybody here has ever taken a dab of diamonds, but if you do that on its own, no terpenes, it's kind of an empty high, right? Like you need those terpenes to help drive your experience one way or another, because with most people are starting to learn, and there may still be some that don't know, but terpenes actually have an effect as well. It's not just flavor. They can direct you in one way or another. Very much like essential oils, right? Like people use essential oils and whatever terminology you use when you're using essential, warm them to provide a relaxing effect or a cleansing effect or anything of that capacity. Terpenes are very similar.
Yeah, the nose is pretty crazy too, man. Nose is nuts. Bring back like memories of like childhood and shit off smallest thing. They say that the last memory that you have of an experience or a time is the smell. It's the last thing.
You're stuck on that pie.
Before it goes, man.
Grandma's fucking pie or cake or whatever.
The upside down cake, hell yeah.
Yeah. Yo,
Hey,
shout out to Grandma.
I ain't got it gone yet, Graham.
Yeah.
That's the truth, man.
So going into it, you didn't think you're gonna win, huh?
No, man. I just, I wasn't even gonna enter. I have a friend that I'm pretty close with. That he travels, he tours, people's hash operations all over the country and shit. And I always hook him up, and we trade stuff. And he's like, dude, this shit fucks, man. And I'm like, he's like, you should just get out of your fucking basement and go meet some people. Go enter a
For real, dude.
So I was like,
that's what I did.
all right. Oh yeah, that's how it all started, man. So I really had no idea. I'm new to rosin, relatively. I always was like, I never really got into wax. I'm old school. It was temple balls, fucking hash, flour. And then I'm like, I don't need to get that fucking high, this dab shit. And then of course that same friend's like, yo, he gave me a dab of straw guava, and the taste and the smell, and I was like, fuck,
I was about to do that. Damn.
I was so high I couldn't fucking eat dinner. So, but the flavor and the smell, man, like that whole experience, I was like, that was it, man. I had arrived. I was like, I'm gonna make hash, or I'm gonna find someone to help me make hash. So,
Do you process everything into hash?
no, I still do flour. I have so I basically I grow for myself. I'm a med patient. I have a couple handfuls of med patients, with anything from like MS to cancer, or anxiety disorders and shit like that. So I do what the people that I give medicine to want, you know what I mean? I do run a lot of hash. I keep flour for those guys too. And I make carts from my hash to my neighbors in a wheelchair with MS. He likes a cart, so I fucking hook him up with some carts.
Fucking Santa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man.
Do you have any intentions of dabbling in that processing process, or do you just sort of
The
system works, we'll keep it there?
Yeah, the tricky part is, I think, everybody or anybody that grows knows how much work it is. So I still work a regular job and stuff. So it's like having, 2.5 full-time jobs,
Yeah,
I
no
get up
joke.
super early. So adding another thing into the mix right now doesn't quite make sense. But my next logical step, because of my space limitations, was tissue culture. Plus, I want to do some meristem work and learn how to clean genetics. That whole nerd part of me. So I'd almost prefer to just work with somebody running the hash, do what they do great. You know what I mean? Like Old Man Flower is the real star here, man. He took it and turned it into what won the competition.
I've smoked being a hashtag hydro patron myself. I have smoked quite a bit of his work, if you will, and never disappoints. Never once have I ever gone in, hit it, and been like, which has definitely been the case with some people's rosin. But always on point. He does do a great job.
Yeah, and he's such a nice dude too. Like he's just a real good guy, you know.
So when you're planning for 2025, because you know you're in, you don't have to defend the belt, but you got to show up, right? You're gonna enter. Anything on your mind now about what you're gonna get going, get started?
I don't know. I'm working on some stuff right now. I'm excited. We'll see
Shh,
how
don't
it
talk
comes.
don't say any things out loud. Jesus, keep it a secret. Just wanted to see if you had plans. All right, cool.
Yeah, no, I got plans. I actually, I might enter some flower too, just for
Oh
fun.
shit.
I'm getting some environmental stuff worked out. I'm
Some
thinking
old school tree flower.
Damn, dude,
some
for
tree
real.
flower.
If you're
See
gonna
where-
see like your LLC notification in your town, tree flowers or something.
This year, actually, we're adding to the process, if you will. We have recruited a company called Manitou.
Manitow,
I gotta ask him
think
how
it's
it's pronounced,
Manitow.
so we don't keep jacking it up on this podcast. But we've worked out an agreement with Manitou Analytical to get cannabinoid, terpene, mold, and mildew testing done on every sample. So that will be really exciting. I wonder, one question we didn't ask in that meeting. He probably can. I'm sure it still would be able to test for mold and mildew in hash. I know he said that he has the capacity to test cannabinoids and terpenes in hash, but we'll have to see. I would think so. You probably would know. Most of the time have you ever had hash come out moldy? Maybe don't answer that.
No, I don't have issues with mold. Like,
I don't know
what
what
else?
would it look like. Just regular mold.
Yeah. No, I haven't really witnessed that. Fucking bugs, that's another story, man. I got fucked up by some aphids this past year. That was a fucking process, but so
Yeah, man.
yeah, indoor, I don't worry too much about mold, you know what I mean? Outdoor, yeah, fucking you run some outdoor, you're probably gonna find some mold.
Leaf aphids or root aphids?
Dude, leaf aphids, man.
They just
I learned a
multiply so freaking quickly.
Can't even
dude,
find it.
they're in an indoor environment, they replicate asexually, right?
Yep.
So fucking millions.
If you miss one,
They're
they're
fucked.
back at it, and they got thousands of eggs in there.
Yep. So, but what I couldn't figure, because I don't like a lot of people, like hardly anybody comes into my grow, right? It's just me. So how the fuck did they get in, right? I run a pretty reasonable IPM. Um, but what dawned on me, and I did a little dive, and I don't know if you guys have heard this or not, but what I found out is shortly before they showed up, ants showed up,
Yes.
and I was like, ants are cool. I think ants are fucking fascinating, so they don't bother me too much. But what I found out is that ants are actually aphid farmers. So they'll move aphid eggs and bring them into environments where they can thrive.
Because they
Then
eat the
they'll
sugar.
they eat the fucking sap. So
Yeah.
then they'll bite the wings off of them so that they're fucking stuck to the plants or until they multiply to a certain point, and then the ants come in and fucking they're like the honey bear, right? So that was like an eye opener for me. So now I'm like really meticulous about making sure that there's no ants getting in. Which I mean, it's reasonable to think that if an ant got in, an aphid could get in, but it's just I don't know if it's coincidence or
Yeah, but you don't
not.
typically have aphids running around in your walls. You know what I mean? Whereas like an
Right.
ant inside the home is much more frequent than just a random aphid. But that's interesting. I knew that they had that relationship, but I didn't realize that the ants would actually bring aphid eggs in to sort of populate them and legitimately farm them. That's, as you said, fascinating. Like that's
Fascinating. I'll try to find the article that I read it on and send it your way, man. They'll actually take the eggs and then overwinter them in their nests just to make sure that they can bring them back out in the spring too.
all for
Fucking
that
nuts.
freaking honeydew. Yeah.
That honeydew. Everybody loves cannabis.
I personally never
I
had
hate it.
leaf aphids in my home grow, but last year, dude, I got saddled with root aphids, and I started growing with Happy Frog and Ocean Forest way back in the day, right? And so I was always sort of accustomed to fungus gnats, and
Oh yeah, they come with
I
it.
was gonna say
If-
it's like a
if-
part of
It
the
says
stock.
it on the
but
back
they
of
don't
the
really
bag.
do much to your plant, you know what I mean? Besides maybe in flower stick
They're
to the
ju- they're
trichomes.
just
That's
there to
annoying.
annoy
That's
you.
what you paid for.
Yeah,
First
but
ingredient, it says gnats on the back.
maybe not every bag, and that could be the fault of the store that it was stored at, just to make sure that Fox Farm doesn't sue us, because I don't think we could handle that lawsuit. But
Hey, we still used it, so you know,
It works.
those Home Depots.
but so I got some root aphids, and if you don't know, you don't really see the wingless ones. They're mostly in the ground. You gotta really be looking for it to catch them on the top of your soil.
catch
And the ones that have wings resemble fungus gnats quite a bit. So I'm ripping along, just thinking, whatever. I got some gnats, no big deal. They'll either go away eventually or they won't. Like putting diatomaceous earth down, like that's gonna do anything to the ones that are in the soil. And
Just make your soil look like fucking.
one day, man, honestly, I was tripping on mushrooms. This is how I figured out I had root aphids. I was like in there defoliating while tripping on mushrooms, just pulling leaves off, and I'm like, wait a minute. That one doesn't have wings. What's going on here? And upon further look, there's just so many root aphids. I had to freaking chop and start completely over because, I mean, I didn't immediately, don't get me wrong. I tried to fight it. It was like a 3-month battle. No progress whatsoever. And I went, you know what, fuck it. Everything's got to go. Aphids are brutal. And that ability to reproduce asexually, it's not just indoor. They could do it outdoor as well, but that's because the females are born with their eggs already.
That's fucked.
Bless up.
Yeah. It's crazy. Don't need to be fertilized, nothing. They're just ready to drop out little clones.
I always felt like it's eventually we're gonna come to a point where indoor grow just doesn't work anymore because these bugs are gonna keep getting so fucking fortified, evolving and like spider mites. Fucking use one thing, you gotta use something different the next day. Like it's.
I mean, that's with everything though. Like, and for
Yeah, I was gonna say with fruits too. You know, like the less pesticides and crap you use, the more bugs like organic fruits have on them. You just naturally see them.
But you have
Way more.
to rotate too. Like this is for all you fresh growers out there. You can't just run one product for your integrated pest management, your IPM. You need to rotate them because what happens is, we'll break it down Barney style. You spray once, right? You're going to kill a percentage. You're almost never going to kill everything that's there. And chances are, even if you do kill everything that's crawling, the eggs are going to be able to then rehatch, right? But what happens here is the ones that don't die have some form of resistance to the pesticide that you're using. And so then when they reproduce, all of their offspring also have a resistance to the pesticide you're using. So what you need to be doing is every couple days when you spray, you need to be rotating products between 2 or 3, I mean, as many as you want, but at least 2 or 3 different products is recommended so that you can catch those resistant ones with a different pesticide. And it's highly unlikely that they're going to be resistant to 2 different pesticides. Now, don't just go in and get 2 different mite products. Make sure you're looking at the bottle. They may very well have the same active ingredient, and then therefore you're not really using two different products. You want to make sure it is two different modes of action that you're attacking it with.
Got to catch them slipping.
Speaking of IPM products, what do you like to use, sir, Mr. Colibri?
So yeah, you got to be proactive with that stuff. I like Mammoth for a lot of reasons.
The green one?
I still have the yellow stuff. There's a green Mammoth.
Uh-oh.
I have to get down on my products here, but Mammoth, I use micronized sulfur. I also, for soil, peroxide. Peroxide is like strapping a fucking a bomb vest on a bug, right? On a small bug. It's got a free radical molecule, so when that separates, it basically just fucking explodes the fuckers.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's like yeah, like it the peroxide it attaches. Plus, it gives your roots oxygen, man. It's a great natural. You make sure that you so I use like 28%. So 100 ml of 28% peroxide to 900 ml of water, and then you take like 12 ml of that to a gallon of water. That'll give you 3%.
Double dilution. Gotcha.
Yeah, you got to dilute it down to 3%. Well, yeah, to basically 3%, and then dose from there. So you don't want to nuke your plant's roots. But I like peroxide a lot. Botanigard's been, I don't know, you guys familiar with that? It's Bavaria bassiana.
Yep.
It's a
biological.
fungus. Yeah, it's a biological fungus that's plant friendly that will infect the bugs. And so a lot of other IPMs kind of disrupt their reproductive cycle. This basically infects them, kind of like cordyceps infect
beetles, right?
No, it's ants.
Yeah. So it's a
climb trees and shit.
fungus predator. So that works really good. I cycle those things out. I was able to get rid of the aphids. The beauty of having 3 different grows inside of a lung room is that they didn't necessarily move from tent to tent. I was able to confine them in one. Do you know what I'm saying? It was my clone stock that got really messed up. So you have to eliminate some of that stuff. And then the other 2 tents were safe, so to speak. Whereas a full grow, you get them in there, dude, you're euchred.
You're battling.
So,
yeah.
Yes. Get on top of that stuff, man. Through your veg. And then in, early flower, I wouldn't be spraying too much later on into flower. As long as you're keeping an unfriendly environment, the likelihood of them, introducing themselves. I must have slipped somewhere in my IPM, got lazy, tired. So
yeah. So one option though in flower for you people wondering, if you do experience an outbreak, you could always employ beneficial insects as well.
The ladybug.
It's kind of a shitty one, to be honest with you. So there's a little bit of a misconception about ladybugs. They are predators, but you have to significantly overwhelm whatever your pest is, right? The ladybug is an opportunistic eater, and so it's kind of lazy. They don't eat a whole lot. They pretty much just eat what walks by them. So you want to go more for parasitic wasps or predator mites or something to that capacity. They're a little more aggressive. They actually hunt down predators to eat. The thing is, though, you don't really want to use beneficials unless you have a problem, at least in my opinion, because you're just kind of throwing money down the drain, because if there's nothing there for them to eat, they're going to leave.
Absolutely. Lacewings will do they'll do a number too.
Yeah.
Even if you don't got food, I'm fucking staying. I ain't fucking leaving.
Cool. IPM's fun. Have you ever tried Lost Coast plant therapy?
Oh.
So that's a great one, dude. I've had I don't know that I've tried it on bugs. Yeah, I guess one time. So I was growing at school in a greenhouse, and the kid in the greenhouse next to me was growing strawberries. And if you don't know anything about strawberries, they're like even more of a bug magnet than cannabis is. And so this jackwing comes walking into my greenhouse, and next thing you know, I've got everything he had, which then turned into
Herpes. No, I'm joking.
solo mite. I only ever found one. A solo mite somehow hitching a ride on me back into my grow. Phooey on me for not maintaining sterilization and just going right downstairs. I was heavily stoned at the time, so didn't think it all the way through. But the next day, I went in there in the morning. I'm looking under my leaves. I see this mite. I hit it with Lost Coast plant therapy. Never saw another mite, right? But what I have had happen in the past before is powdery mildew, which likes to show up, especially if you're growing in a basement environment, with the swings in humidity. And I've kicked powdery mildew in a week or less a couple times. I mean, you got to get it before it really takes off, but the product is great. It works for bugs. It works for PM. I don't think you're getting rid of botrytis if you got it, but just best practices for that. But if you're ever looking for a new product to try, I recommend trying that out. It's a great all-in-one, if you will.
I'm gonna put that on my list. Have you heard? I heard powdery mildew. This made sense to me that if you raise your humidity, contrary to what your logical thought would say, you want to lower humidity, right? But
Well, if you lower it, it dries out and then it spreads.
right, exactly,
It's
right.
but
So
it's sort of like it's a fucking dangerous game, brother, because then you're keeping it there, and it's got the possibility of just creating new as well. So it's like that double-edged sword. If you're dialed in, absolutely, you're right. Like keeping it a little bit higher will stop any spread.
Well, to stop it from
I didn't mean to cut you off.
creating those my teacher's going to be so upset with me, being that I'm in mycology right now if I get this wrong, but I'm fairly confident those are the sexual spores that it's putting out for overwintering because it thinks it's going to die, right? That white that you see, the white is actually mycelium. The spores will be little black dots on there if you were to look really close, but it comes out when the plant dries out. My issue with raising your humidity is now you have to be super vigilant on keeping your plant open and aerated, right? Because a high humidity is a recipe for bud rot to come in. And if your plant's already weakened by a fungus, it's got even more of a chance of being susceptible to that.
I almost play devil's advocate with it, and if I'm going to, raise that humidity, I'll also raise that temperature like high for 2-3 days to just try and kill anything that's in there. Doesn't always work, but you got to keep it pretty fucking high too. But I mean, think about outdoor when it's 100-degree weather. It's got a day or two in it. So it's always worth a try. I think those two things definitely go hand in hand, keeping that humidity high and that temperature sort of stops it from progressing. But
I guess
in check.
At the end of the day, if it's not showing up in that capacity. So here's one thing. Powdery mildew's never really bothered me, right? Because at least in my experience, I've never seen it on bud. I've only ever really seen it on the leaves. Granted, I'm not interested in I'm not like, oh yay, that's powdery mildew, let's go smoke that, right? But like it's just for myself personally, I've never really been concerned if it came up. But there was a thought process. I'm sure there's more research. I haven't looked it up in years, but they say that it's systemic, right? So even if you get rid of the symptoms, it's still within the plant. And I wonder to what extent, if any, that any harm it could cause, right? Just from smoking something that's had powdery mildew.
I mean, think about when you were little. How much fucking you didn't know what you were smoking. I'm not saying people should go out and smoke fucking bud rot. You know, I'm not saying that, but I can almost guarantee I don't trim the best, and my plants aren't 100% fucking healthy all the time. So I've probably smoked bud rot, and I'm able to climb fucking mountains. I run 5Ks and shit. It's not gonna kill you.
Yeah, but how much better could you run them if you didn't smoke?
Oh, I don't think about what could have been. I think about where I'm at right now and what John's reading. He's not watching us. He's reading something.
So
Looking up all these words you guys are saying.
So Dave, you run a
Mountain.
fairly small grow from the sound of it. Do you typically? Now I know this is going to be transitioning, but as it's been historically, do you typically run those like cyclically, or do you flip everything to flower at once?
Run. Oh, cyclical. So
Like, do you start
Yeah.
one tent and then
Yeah.
a couple weeks later start the next tent, and then a couple weeks later flip the next tent, so you kind of have it on a cyclical harvest?
Yeah, because like I'm one guy trying to harvest, man. I'm looking at your schedule at Harvest Trim Jail. Holy shit,
Yeah,
man,
bro. Like, how often are you in trim jail?
that's frequent enough, but that's where the hash comes in. It's nice because you're just taking big leaves and everything else is going into the freezer immediately.
That's
And
how I like to
then,
trim just for smoke too. By the way, I'm nutty, dude.
no, I do the same thing. Sometimes I wet trim, just depends. I've been playing around with a lot of those things, but yeah, I'm running things in rotation. Gives me a little time to keep on top of it all. When it comes to water changes, it's kind of inconvenient because like now your water changes when they come up, you're doing like 3 in a week, but I've got that down to like a pit stop system. So, I can basically change out my water, have everything cleaned up, done. I mix newts. I have like a 100-gallon batch tank, basically, or 250-gallon batch tanks. So I'll have water on deck. I'll be pumping water out and sending water in immediately afterwards. Um, so yeah, I'm running things in a cycle. When I get rebuilt here, I'm gonna be running most likely everything at once. And I'll have a separate veg room. With deep water culture, if I'm vegging for 2 weeks, sometimes I'm vegging too long.
Yeah,
So,
they grow
uh,
so quick.
dude, it's ridiculous, man. Once those roots hit the water, I'm almost already starting to transition my lighting down. I don't slam them right into flower. I find that I get a better because I need time to take clones too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I'm 2 weeks into veg, I really don't have good um, good branches to clone from. So what I'll do is I'll step my lighting down into like a 15-hour on cycle, and they'll start to like fill out a little bit. They'll start to kind of move into that regenerative feeling, I feel like, and they'll give me a little bit of leaf to work with. And then by the time I hit week 3, they're into 12-12 basically, and that's when you gotta manage the stretch. So
Yeah, almost mimicking nature, right?
What you
In-
said
in
you were
some
using those just those modified spider farmers. What were you using? Is that everything? Is that what you're using? All of them?
Yeah, they're all the same. But I also have an IR bar in there. I have a couple UV bars. So later on into flower, I'll start pushing a little bit of far red. In the last half an hour, like maybe 15 before dark and 15 afterwards, to kind of stimulate some of that, um, that sunset light, that UV spectrum that we don't see, that really kind of pushes those hormones into to getting busy on the regen side. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How do you have it all dialed in? Like, are you using like a specific controller, or are you doing it on just old school timers?
No, I've got AC Infinity gear, pretty much set up, and this at this point everything's scheduled, which is nice. I just manage VPD. And then, everything else, like a couple blue labs monitoring my resis. I don't worry too much about that. I don't have too much issue with pH. With what I'm doing, it seems to be pretty reasonable, and I kind of let it swing a little bit. I just keep it in the veg range, and then as I start to move my nutrients into more of a bloom nutrient, it naturally kind of comes up. The plant, does its cation thing and adjusts the pH how it wants. So I start to adjust my pH only if it gets close to kind of heading out of range. So let it swing.
Oh yeah. For those that don't know what that VPD means, that's a vapor pressure differential. It is essentially a measurement of heat versus humidity. There's a couple other things that can come into play that can change or affect that as well, like CO2, amount of light. But largely it's heat to humidity. So when you're intimate with a plant, you can kind of just know the time that it's ready to harvest, right? After you've worked it a couple cycles. But when you're running a new plant, what are you looking for to tell you that plant is finished?
Yeah, so if I don't completely stress the shit out of it, yeah, I'm looking at trikes, man. I like so I'm not a big. I don't really subscribe necessarily to that indica sativa moniker. Um, I could, I like to harvest early. My trikes are just starting to get cloudy. Bam, there's your uppity high. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and that clean looking hash too.
Yeah. And then when I let it go late, that one's, you're gonna have a higher, I guess, CBN ratio. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then, that's gonna be more of the fucking flatten you out at the end of the night type of smoke. Hash is ideally like early, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When they're just starting to cloud up. And then, but pineapple cake's kind of one of the anomalies to that because that thing, I don't let the, I haven't, that's a fast cultivar. I think that's 45 days, right? Finish
Wow.
time, I want to say. Hella Jelly's the same way. I ran Hella Jelly. That thing, that was my first run. It was great. But the, that one just puts out this like darker, like honey. Both of the runs that I did of it, I've only done 2 runs for hash with it, and they were both kind of like after they cured up, it was just like dark honey kind of color. So yeah, kind of rambling on there. I'm stoned.
No, it's good. I like to hear from you. I like to hear what you have
Well,
to say.
did that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. That was perfect. Yeah, you like to
Yeah.
get them typically as they're getting a little bit into the cloud phase, if you will. Unless you're harvesting for sleep potential. Yeah, makes 100% sense to me.
Exactly.
Are you using like a machine to trim, or are you just going into it with your
He's
precision
cutting off the
scissors?
water leaves and throwing it
Well,
in the
yeah.
freezer, bro.
Yeah, but like you said, you smoke flower too, and I know I said I smoked the whole damn thing. I only take off the big sunners as well, but do you go through a lot? And if you're smoking it, do you like to have those pristine looking buds and you use your trimmers, or you?
I like to, yeah, I hand trim everything, man. I handle it as little as possible. Post process, you can grow the best weed in the world if you can't fucking dry and cure it. And I trust me, because I've
Hmm.
eh, then you're losing a lot of potential in what you're growing. So
That brings me to
yeah,
a question that I almost forgot to ask. Have you tried out that Canatrol yet?
Oh fuck yeah!
I love it, man. The Canatrol's great.
I
I
can't.
admittedly had, you know, I had a couple of them before I won
Oh.
the competition.
Oh
So
yeah, another one of these things, huh?
oh no,
No.
dude, trust me, it's great. I gave one to Old Man Flower. I was like,
Oh,
yo,
that's
here you
sweet,
go.
man. That's awesome.
Do they Is that a good device for curing hash as well, or is it mostly good for flour itself?
Uh, that's a good question. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on curing hash. I'm still kind of learning the nuances of it. I've had some successes and some failures in it, and hash is weird. It washes, depending on what you're growing. Like, I haven't, I'm just starting to select for hash too. Do you know what I'm saying? When I say
Yeah.
I'm selecting for terps, doesn't necessarily mean I'm getting the best cultivars for hash. You know what I'm saying? So some hash comes back a little on the drier side, not as greasy as people are you know what I mean? But they definitely like the blueberry cake, like the terps on that were I love
Undeniable.
Man,
that shit was like it's like kerosene
fuck,
blueberries. I love it.
so good, so
Um,
good. Take me back.
but yeah, the sorry, Justin, I lost my train of thought there. What was the
Selecting for
question?
hash, brother. Selecting for hash.
Yeah, selecting for hash. So I'm kind of working on that. I'm working through my favorites. Like it might not wash the best, it might not give you the biggest return, but at the end of the day, like I'm not like this is how I feel. Like if you're in this for the money, you pick the wrong profession, right? That's the way I feel for myself. Farming is never the way to so yield and bag appeal and stuff like that. It all has its place, but to me, it's all about the terps, right? So I might not get the best washers. Um, I'm trying to find my unicorn, so to speak. So someday I'll come across the one that just hits it all, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Last
but yeah,
last sort of question I think in the growing world before we sort of start to wrap things up here. Any intentions on I've ever getting into breeding? Like I know you're playing with the tissue culture, so that's going to be maintaining some genetics there. Any intent on trying to dabble in and maybe create your own hash yielders, if you will, with the terps that you like, but push out a better yield?
I'd love to, man, because I have some umami genetics that just they fucking they dump. And they have some flavors that I'd like to impart. I don't think it's a reality for me in the
Yeah,
next foreseeable future because I got so much going on.
it's a
But if
lot of
I
work.
if anybody wanted to collaborate, I'd be so down for that and just to hang out and learn some more. I love to learn, so
We'll talk.
I would love. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll talk for sure.
right on. I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you. Oh, so it's that's the whole thing, community, talking, getting this shit going. But for real, I'm going to reach out to you about that cuz it's something that, if I can help you with something that, like you said, a nice producer, something that's going to push out a lot and further whatever you're doing, absolutely. Provide you with a clean female back, provide you with seeds, whatever. I can do all of it
Absolutely.
here with you. We can figure something out. And the rest of the people out there that are doing these types of things underground, not talking about it blows my mind the amount of people you see come out of the woodwork when you go to like I'm not going to say underground event, but an event that's not necessarily a non-private party. They're all private. So being able to go around and talk to people and have people on this podcast that were at the championship, that were putting their names out there, it's refreshing to see. It's so fresh, it's so new. I can't say that I wasn't like sketched out the first few months of me just be like, oh yeah, I'm smoking on camera, like whatever. We all have jobs, like you said. You're working a 9 to 5, and it's it's
Well,
it's hard to really get out there and put your voice and your face in front of everybody to be, I'm not saying a spokesperson for it, but an advocate for it in the least.
I will always advocate for people, and really, I don't mind putting my face out. For me, it's because I provide medicine for people that need it. It just takes like one person with a grudge or a hater,
Absolutely,
any,
that's that stigma,
I,
man.
and so they ruin it for everybody. That people that actually like really need it and benefit from it over some bullshit or I don't know, like who knows, you know what I mean? So I'm
You
kind of
said it the
heir to this
first time. It's bullshit.
It is. And so the other thing is too is cannabis isn't my only medicine. Do you know what I mean? So there's things that would get me in a lot more trouble than just some green. You know what I
Yep,
mean?
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely a fair point. One thing I want to touch back to, and that sense of community, is that's something that we need to remember. Legalization, I feel like, has turned this plant almost into a dog eat dog. When at the end of the day, if all of us in the, we'll call it legacy, but I don't want to just put legacy people out there. All of the people on the gray side of things, right? If we're all out here fighting each other, all that's going to do is make us obsolete significantly quicker. We need to stick together as a community, lift each other up. If somebody else is doing the same thing as you, good. Do yours
Yeah.
better. You know what I mean? Like,
Do it together, man. Do
Yeah,
it
right. It's
for
friendly
yeah.
competition. That the only thing that really comes of it is like, oh, now I have twice as much to burn. Make friends because
push
it's
each
all,
other up.
Yeah, it's all we're doing. That's the reason why a lot of us are coming together. And otherwise I wouldn't know John. I wouldn't know you, Seabird. I would have known Justin
Yeah,
because
for
we
sure.
travel in the same circles. The elite around here in Central County.
Well, in the spirit of that, I haven't run it by Rob yet, but I'm gonna take that pineapple cake pheno. I don't think you can get pineapple upside down cake anymore. I could be wrong, but that particular pheno, I'll just forewarn everybody, it's not the biggest yielder, but I grew one outdoors this year, and she's just fucking beautiful the way she smells. So once I have my TC going good and I have a bunch of clones, stop into hashtag hydro. I'll figure out one way to announce it, and everybody can have it. You guys can pick it up there. So
Oh yeah, man.
That's cool,
This
man.
award-winning product right
Yeah.
there.
Award. You
Yep.
heard it. Award-winning product.
well,
Dave,
there were,
I'd love to
go
bring
ahead.
you back on again in the future if you're open to it. This was an awesome conversation. I feel like we could keep talking for hours,
Yeah,
truthfully.
for sure, for sure. I would love to, and thank you.
Um,
So
so
yeah, and I
go ahead.
wanted to haven't really like talked about it, but I'd like to say you said you were interested in maybe being a flower competitor this year as well. If you decided that that's what you wanted to do instead of a rosin competitor, you can definitely switch sides in that respect. Coming back in,
I'm
as a
gonna
defending
go ahead
champion.
and step on your toes for a second.
No, you don't want me
So,
to do that. Oh my
um, I would like to see you in the hash world. So what we've told people is that you can only have a single entry, right? For me, that means a single entry per category.
it is.
Yes.
It's
So
per
you could
category.
be in flour and hash, sure, but just one per category. But
Yeah,
I would like to see you, quote, defend the title, if you will. So what we're going to be doing with the 4 winners from last year is you guys are all going to have the category that you entered into as a complimentary entry, right? So you were automatically welcome in. We don't want there to be any barriers stopping you guys outside of maybe you're not growing anymore or the product failed, right? Like it's nature. We can't necessarily control that, but we want to have all of you back, welcome you back as sort of an extra congratulations, but also let's see if the other people got what it takes to maybe dethrone or maybe not, right?
We'll see.
yeah. I love it. I saw some of the flower entries, man. Like I didn't really see all the hash, and like I met a lot of the people, and everybody was so great. But like there was some fire floating around there, so like everybody won, in my opinion, for the most part.
New York's top shelf, bro. We really are.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was really awesome. So
we mentioned it last week talking to Buffalo AF. Uncle Stoner and Brandon Rust were 2 of our judges this year. They're fairly well known. They've been doing this thing for a long time, judging competitions, and they said that this is one of the best entry competitions that they've been to, if that makes sense. Not sure if I worded that properly, but they everything was top shelf, and people were growing so well. Brandon was actually like calling out what the strains were just by smoking it. You know what I mean? Which was pretty. It's an ode to him, but it's also an ode to the cultivator, right? Because they could have just jacked it up and it had no flavor or smell, depending on the dry cure, right?
Right.
Cool. You want to take us home, sir?
Yeah, no. So first off, I want to say that everybody should go check out the homegrowchampionship.com. You know, we've already opened up all of our entries. That is live. Vending will be coming soon. I didn't want to bust out the shirt and show everybody. The Dank Knights, he's out there, man. And we've got merch on the site now. It's top notch, high quality. Go check it out. Like, subscribe. We've got the YouTube going out. That's whatever this podcast gets launched on, 5 p.m. Fridays. We're looking at Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. What's the other ones? iHeartRadio. So
Most of them.
yeah,
Most of your podcasting platforms.
Get out there and hit that button, because we've always got something for everybody.
Leave us a comment too. Let us know what you want to hear about, who you want to hear from. Check out, like he said, the website. I'm not sure. I don't think we have tickets live yet, do we?
Tickets aren't live till Black Friday, so look at that. Spoiler alert. Go check it out, Black Friday. You might even be able to go on there and see some cool pictures leading up to, maybe a little story. Who knows? But yeah, Black Friday, check it out. There's going to be some tickets flying. VIP will be launching Black Friday as well. That's going to be, you're going to need to be getting in on that because it's going to go quick.
Speaking of Black Friday, come hang out with the crew at Photo City Music Hall for Rave Against the Machine. A couple of our bands from last year are going to be there. Roots Collider is hosting the event. It's their 6th one they're doing. They're doing the Grassroots edition, so it's going to be a great time. And Sophistafunk is going to be headlining that. And you know how heavy we rock with them. So come hang out. Homegrowers will have a table set up, promoting, moving some of those Black Friday first day sales, if you will, of tickets.
Yeah.
So
hard copy tickets, right? Yeah, hard copy tickets.
Hard copy tickets. So
You frame them.
slide out, check us out there. I believe it starts at 8 p.m. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm about 90% certain it's 8 p.m. Photo City Music Hall, Black Friday, November 29th, people. November 29th.
He will be there at 8 p.m. regardless.
I will not be there at 8 p.m. I'll be there
Regardless.
shortly after.
No, yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, it's gonna be a shit show. We'll see. It's gonna be a good time. Can't wait to rock out with everybody. Little
John, Dave, got any last minute thoughts?
Thought
Yeah.
it started at 7.
I think we have to be there at 7
you said you're
to like set up.
I don't think I'm gonna be here. I gotta check.
I'll be there. I'll pick you up.
All right, Dave, thanks again so much, brother. We look forward to chatting with you again in the future. It was a fucking awesome conversation. I'd love to have another deep dive. We got into a lot of really good topics there, and you're clearly somebody who's very well versed in growing, well read, not just out here slapping salts together. So love that. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for everything. Thanks for putting on a great contest, and thank you to everybody, all the sponsors, the whole nine. You guys are awesome. So thanks for having me.
Hell yeah. Speaking of sponsors,
Yeah, no. So we've it's open. You can go online, but we've already had our first sponsor drop. Dino Myco. Let me show you guys a little bit right here. Dino Myco. We're gonna do the unboxing for them this week before the podcast. They're hooking up everybody who comes through the door. First 100 of them. We're gonna have nice goodie bags for everybody. It's gonna be insane. So be on the lookout for that. Check out the video. Who knows? Maybe you'll see some clues in the video to lead you some other goodies happening around Black Friday.
hell yeah. And with that, y'all, this has been the Home Growers Championship podcast, where growers show.
Yeah. Seabird. Caw-caw!